The moment I knew everything was about to fall apart was when I pulled into the distribution center parking lot at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday and saw that every single loading dock was dark. There were no backup alarms from forklifts, no diesel engines idling, no workers in high-visibility vests hauling pallets under fluorescent lights, just silence. A completely empty yard where there should have been 200 refrigerated trucks getting loaded with produce bound for every major grocery chain in the southeast. I stood there, frozen for a moment, the weight of what I was seeing sinking in. Something was horribly wrong. My name is Ray Callahan. I'm 53 years old, and for the past 14 years, I've been the director of fleet operations for Magnolia Fresh Distribution, the largest perishable goods logistics company between Atlanta and Miami. We move strawberries from Plant City, oranges from Lakeland, tomatoes from Immokalee, and about 400 other products from farms across Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. Every single day, 200 trucks rolled out of our 3 warehouses carrying $4.2 million worth of food that had a shelf life measured in hours, not days. Let me explain something about cold chain logistics that most people don't think about. When you pick up a carton of strawberries at the grocery store, those berries have been on a clock since the second they left the field. From harvest to your refrigerator, you've got maybe 72 hours before they start turning into expensive compost. My job was to make sure those berries spent as little time as possible sitting in a truck, and that the truck they were sitting in was at exactly 34 degrees. Not 33, which freezes them, and not 35, which lets the mold start. Every route I built factored in traffic patterns, bridge weight limits, fuel costs, driver hours of service regulations, dock appointment windows at each store, and the thermal characteristics of each truck in our fleet. A 2019 Freightliner holds temperature differently than a 2012 Kenworth, with 800,000 miles on the reefer unit. I built the routing system we used from the ground up, starting with off-the-shelf software back in 2011. But within 2 years, I had customized it so heavily that the original vendor told me I should probably stop calling them for support because I knew more about the code than they did. Every season, every weather pattern, every highway construction project, every new Walmart distribution center, I adjusted the algorithms. The system knew that I-75 through Valdosta backed up every Friday afternoon because of the military base. It knew that the Publix DC in Jacksonville had a dock supervisor named Carl who wouldn't accept deliveries after 2 p.m., no matter what the contract said. It knew that driver 47, Miguel Santos, could handle the tricky downtown Miami routes better than anyone else in the fleet because he drove a bus there for a year and a half before switching to trucking. This wasn't the kind of knowledge you get from a textbook. This was 14 years of phone calls at 3 a.m. when a reefer unit died on I-95, and I had to figure out how to get 40,000 pounds of lettuce transferred to another truck before it wilts. This was knowing which truck stops had reliable mechanics and which ones would charge you triple because they knew you were desperate. This was relationships with dock managers, farm coordinators, fuel suppliers, and 200 drivers who trusted me to keep them rolling. But to the new ownership, I was just a line item on a spreadsheet, a very expensive line item. Magnolia Fresh had been family-owned for 30 years before the Davenport Group acquired us last October. The Davenport Group is a private equity firm out of Charlotte that specializes in what they call operational optimization of underperforming logistics assets. Translation: they buy companies, fire the expensive people, cut every corner they can find, and flip the company in 3 years for a profit. They don't care about strawberries or truck drivers or dock appointments. They care about EBITDA margins and exit multiples. The guy they sent to run things was Colin Davenport, 32 years old, the founder's son. Colin showed up his first week wearing Italian loafers and a slim-fit suit to a warehouse where the floors are perpetually wet from condensation and the temperature hovers around 38 degrees. He lasted about 20 minutes on the warehouse floor before retreating to his office, which he had redecorated with glass furniture and a standing desk that costs more than most of my drivers make in a month. I tried to work with Colin, I really did. I walked him through our operations, showed him the routing system, explained the relationships with our retail partners. He nodded politely while scrolling through his phone. The only time he seemed genuinely interested was when I mentioned our fuel costs. That's where he saw the savings. Our annual fuel budget was $11 million, which sounds like a lot, until you understand that fuel is the single biggest variable cost in refrigerated trucking, and we were actually running about 8% below the industry average because of my routing optimizations. But Colin didn't see efficiency. He saw $11 million that could be disrupted. The meeting where everything changed happened on a Monday in March. Colin called me into the conference room where I found him sitting next to a woman I'd never seen before. She was young, maybe 28, with the kind of confident posture you develop when you've never actually failed at anything important. "Ray," Colin said, "I want you to meet Megan. She's been consulting for our Chicago portfolio company, and she's developed something that's going to transform our routing operations." Megan smiled and opened her laptop. "I've built a machine learning platform that optimizes fleet routing in real time using predictive analytics. It processes GPS data, traffic feeds, and weather patterns to generate routes that are 40% more fuel efficient than traditional systems." I looked at the screen. It was a clean, pretty dashboard with color-coded routes and animated trucks moving across a map of Florida. It looked like something out of a Super Bowl commercial. "How long have you been working on this?" I asked. 6 months, Megan said. "I developed the core algorithm during my master's thesis at Georgia Tech and then refined it with real-world data from the Chicago operation." "What kind of operation in Chicago?" I asked. "Dry goods, non-perishable warehouse distribution." I leaned back in my chair. "Non-perishable. So, no temperature sensitivity, no spoilage windows, no reefer unit monitoring, no dock appointment timing where being 15 minutes late means your load gets rejected, and $60,000 worth of organic blueberries ends up in a landfill." "The algorithm is adaptable," Megan said, but I caught the slight hesitation in her voice. "The machine learning component will train on your historical data and optimize for whatever constraints you define." "Constraints I define?" I asked. It was like she was talking about adjusting settings on a video game. "Colin," I said, turning to him, "our current system handles 847 unique delivery points across 3 states. Each point has specific dock requirements, appointment windows, product temperature tolerances, and unloading protocols. We have 200 trucks with different payload capacities, different fuel efficiencies, different refrigeration capabilities, and 200 drivers with different certifications, hours of service statuses, and route knowledge. On any given day, I'm solving a problem with roughly 14 million variables. This isn't something you test with a 6-month-old algorithm trained on boxes of cereal in Chicago." Colin's expression didn't change. "Megan's platform has already been approved by our board. We're implementing it starting next Monday. Your role during the transition will be to provide Megan with full access to your routing data and driver databases." I stared at him. "My role during the transition?" I repeated. "We're restructuring the operations team. Ray, Megan will be taking over fleet optimization at a fraction of the current cost. Patricia in HR has your transition paperwork." There it was. 14 years, and I was being replaced by a grad student's thesis project and a pretty dashboard. "I've seen this before in the industry," I said. "Private equity comes in, sees a 6-figure salary on the books, and figures they can replace institutional knowledge with software. Sometimes they're right. This was not one of those times." "What about the Costco contract?" I asked. "We have a performance review next month. If our on-time delivery rate drops below 96%, they can terminate. That's $34 million in annual revenue. Megan's system will improve delivery rates, not reduce them," Colin said with the unearned confidence of someone who's never had to explain to a Costco regional manager why their organic produce section is empty on a Saturday morning. I spent my last week doing exactly what they asked. I documented everything I could. Route histories, driver notes, customer quirks, seasonal adjustments. I filled 3 binders and a 2,000-page digital manual. But here's the thing about a system that's evolved over 14 years through constant human judgment. You can document the what, but you can't document the why. You can't write down the instinct that tells you to reroute truck 112 through Ocala instead of Gainesville because the Paynes Prairie stretch floods when it rains more than 2 inches. And the weather forecast is calling for storms. You can't document the phone call you need to make to Bobby at the Lakeland Citrus packing house to hold the Valencia oranges an extra hour because your truck is running behind. And Bobby owes you a favor from that time you helped his son get a CDL. Megan shadowed me for 3 days. She was smart, I'll give her that. She asked good questions and took careful notes, but she kept trying to reduce everything to data points and algorithms. When I explained that driver 83, Tommy Raines, should never be assigned the Tallahassee Walmart route, because he has a personal dispute with the dock manager there that results in his loads getting accidentally delayed. She frowned and said the system shouldn't account for interpersonal conflicts. It shouldn't. I agreed. But it does. Because this is the real world, and in the real world, people are messy. Friday was my last day. I handed over my company phone, my fuel cards, my warehouse keys. Eddie Vasquez, our head of maintenance, walked me to my truck. Eddie's been keeping our fleet running for almost as long as I've been routing it. This is a mistake, Ray, Eddie said. Probably, I said, but it's their mistake to make. The thing is, I didn't want them to fail. Those are real drivers with real families depending on those paychecks. Those are real farmers whose entire year's income depends on their produce getting to market before it rots. I didn't wish disaster on anyone, but I knew it was coming the same way you know rain's coming when the barometric pressure drops. You don't have to be a meteorologist. You just have to pay attention. Monday morning was Megan's first solo run. I was sitting in my kitchen drinking coffee when my phone started buzzing at 5:30 a.m. The first text was from Tommy Rains. Ray, the new system assigned me to the Miami Costco run, but my reefer certification expired last week. Told the new lady, but she said the system wouldn't have assigned me if I wasn't qualified. Then another text, this time from Miguel Santos. Boss, the app is telling me to take I-4 through Orlando at 7 a.m. You know that's 2 hours of standstill traffic. My strawberries will be soup by the time I get to Jacksonville. By 7 a.m., my phone was a disaster movie in real time. Megan's algorithm had generated routes based purely on distance optimization without accounting for real-time traffic patterns, bridge restrictions, or the fact that you can't send a 53-foot trailer down Colonial Drive in downtown Orlando during rush hour without causing a scene that ends up on the local news. But the routes were just the appetizer. The real catastrophe was the temperature management. See, my old system monitored reefer unit temperatures every 15 minutes and automatically flagged any truck that drifted outside the product-specific tolerance range. Strawberries at 34 degrees, leafy greens at 36, citrus at 38. Each product has a different sweet spot, and when you're carrying mixed loads, which about 60% of our trucks do, you have to configure the reefer zones correctly, or you end up with frozen lettuce in one section and warm cheese in another. Megan's platform, on the other hand, monitored temperature every 2 hours. By the time her system flagged a problem, you'd already lost the load. And on that first Monday, the system didn't just fail to monitor it. It actually sent incorrect temperature settings to 47 trucks because Megan had mapped the product codes wrong during the data migration. Code 1147, which was supposed to be organic baby spinach requiring 36 degrees, was mapped to code 1174, which was industrial cleaning supplies that don't need refrigeration at all. So, 47 trucks turned off their reefer units completely while carrying $2.8 million worth of perishable food across Florida in 87-degree heat. I found out about the temperature disaster around 9 a.m. when Eddie Vasquez called me. His voice had that careful calmness of someone trying not to panic. Ray, we've got a situation. 47 trucks are running with their reefers off, and nobody can figure out how to override the system because the new platform locked out manual controls as a security feature. I closed my eyes. How long have they been running warm? Eddie paused. Best case, about 2 hours. Worst case, since they left the warehouse at 4 a.m., 5 hours. 5 hours of Florida sun beating down on trucks full of strawberries, spinach, blueberries, and dairy products. The math wasn't complicated. At 87 degrees ambient temperature, the interior of an unrefrigerated truck reaches 100 degrees in about 40 minutes. At 100 degrees, strawberries don't just spoil, they essentially cook. You end up with 40,000 pounds of hot fruit paste. The drivers were calling in one by one as they noticed their loads sweating through the trailer walls. Marcus Green, one of our most experienced guys, pulled over at a truck stop near Ocala and opened his trailer doors. He sent me a video. The strawberry pallets looked like they'd been sitting in a sauna. Juice was running across the trailer floor and dripping out the back. 4 pallets of organic baby greens had turned into what Marcus called hot soup in a bag. By noon, the scale of the disaster was becoming clear. Of the 200 trucks that rolled out that morning, 47 had temperature failures, resulting in complete load loss. Another 30 had been routed so badly that they missed their dock appointments entirely, which in perishable logistics means the retailer rejects the load and you eat the cost. And 15 trucks were literally lost. Their drivers followed Megan's routing app down roads that didn't exist, or through residential neighborhoods where a semi had no business being. Driver 22, Pete Kowalski, called dispatch to report that the app had directed him down a dirt road that dead-ended at a cow pasture somewhere outside Ocala. The total product loss by end of day Monday was $3.1 million. But the money was just the beginning. Publix rejected 23 deliveries that arrived outside their temperature compliance window. Their quality assurance team pulled samples and found core temperatures above 50 degrees on products that should have been at 36. When perishable food arrives at a retailer above the temperature threshold, it doesn't just get rejected, it gets reported to the FDA. Publix filed a formal complaint, and because we supply over 300 of their stores, they immediately put our account on probation. One more violation, and they could suspend us entirely. That's $18 million a year, gone. Kroger was worse. We missed dock appointments at 7 of their distribution centers, which meant their stores in Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville had empty produce sections that Tuesday morning. When customers walked in and saw bare shelves, Kroger's regional VP called Colin directly and used language that, from what I heard later, would have made a sailor uncomfortable. Kroger demanded a formal remediation plan within 48 hours, or they were activating the termination clause in our contract. That's $22 million annually. Costco didn't even call. Their contract has an automatic review trigger if on-time delivery drops below 96% in any rolling 30-day period. On Monday alone, we hit 61%. Their system generated the contract review notice automatically like a machine, doesn't care about your excuses. The farmers were furious. Hector Ramirez, who runs the largest strawberry operation in Plant City, called me Tuesday morning. Not Megan, not Colin. Ray, what the hell is going on? I've got 60,000 pounds of berries sitting in my cooler that were supposed to be on trucks yesterday. They're not going to last until tomorrow. That's $180,000 I'm about to dump in a field. I told Hector I wasn't running things anymore. The silence on the other end of the phone was the loudest thing I'd heard all week. Then who is? He asked. Another silence. Ray, I've got 40 families who work my fields. They don't get paid if I don't sell berries. You understand what I'm telling you? I understood exactly what he was telling me. This wasn't just about spreadsheets and algorithms. This was about Maria Santos, who picks strawberries for $12 a flat so her kids can eat dinner. This was about Tommy Raines making his truck payment so he doesn't lose the rig he spent 10 years saving for. This was about the grocery store in Poke, where people buy their vegetables because it's the only store within 30 miles. Tuesday afternoon, Megan tried to fix the routing algorithm by pushing a system update, but she'd made the classic mistake of someone who learned from theory instead of reality. She updated the live production system instead of testing on a sandbox first. The update crashed the entire platform, not just the routing, the GPS tracking, the temperature monitoring, the dispatch communication system, everything. For about 4 hours, we had 200 trucks scattered across 3 states and no way to contact them except by personal cell phone, which half the drivers don't answer while driving because they take the hands-free law seriously. Eddie called me again Tuesday evening. He sounded exhausted. Ray, she tried to reboot the system, and it wiped the route database. Every saved route, every customer preference, every driver assignment gone. She's been on the phone with the software developer in Chicago for 3 hours, and they keep telling her to restore from backup, but she never set up backups because she said the cloud platform had automatic redundancy. Let me guess, I said. The automatic redundancy was for the platform itself, not the custom data. Eddie laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that comes right before someone starts crying. By Wednesday, the news trucks showed up. A local reporter in Plant City had gotten a tip about tons of fresh produce being dumped because the distribution company couldn't get its trucks running. The footage was devastating. Aerial drone shots of strawberries being bulldozed into a field. Interviews with farm workers wondering if they'd have jobs next week. A public store manager apologizing to customers for empty shelves. The story went from local to national by Wednesday evening. CNN picked it up with the headline, "Tech failure leaves Florida grocery shelves bare as millions in produce rots." The Florida Attorney General's office started asking questions about food waste and contract compliance. And our insurance company, after reviewing the scope of losses, sent a very politely worded letter suggesting that our coverage might not extend to losses resulting from voluntary replacement of proven operational systems with untested alternatives. In insurance language, that's basically saying, "You did this to yourselves, don't look at us." Colin called me Thursday morning. I was on my back porch watching the sun come up over the orange groves, which is something I'd been doing a lot of that week since I suddenly had nowhere to be at 4 a.m. "Ray." His voice was hoarse, like he'd been yelling or drinking or both. "We need to talk." "Good morning, Colin. I saw the CNN piece last night. The drone footage of the strawberries was really something very cinematic. This isn't funny. We've lost $8.6 million in product this week. Publix is on probation. Kroger gave us 24 hours to submit a remediation plan, or they're pulling the contract, and the Costco review could terminate us entirely. That's $74 million in annual revenue at risk." "Sounds like quite a week," I said. "How much is it worth to you?" I let the silence stretch. I had been waiting for this call since the moment I walked out of that warehouse on Friday, but I wasn't going to make it easy. These people needed to understand exactly what they'd done. "Come back in what capacity?" Colin finally asked. "Whatever capacity you want," he replied quickly. "Consulting? Full-time? I don't care. Just fix this." I paused, letting him sweat for a moment before I spoke again. $200,000 cash wired to my account before I walked through the door. There was a long pause on the other end. "That's a lot," Colin finally said. I didn't hesitate. "Colin, you've lost $8.6 million in 5 days. You're about to lose $74 million in contracts. And it's Wednesday, which means you've got another 200 trucks that need to roll out tomorrow morning. How much is that worth to you?" "Fine," Colin said, his voice tight. "What else?" "New contract," I continued. 3 years guaranteed. Double my previous salary with a 15% performance bonus tied to on-time delivery rates. I report directly to the board, not to you. And Megan's platform gets shut down permanently. We go back to my system, which you will fund a proper backup and documentation project for, so that this company is never this vulnerable again. This includes hiring 2 junior analysts who I will personally train. Another long pause. "Anything else?" Colin asked. "One more thing," I said, letting the weight of the moment settle. "I want a written statement from you, posted on the company website and sent to every one of our retail partners and farm suppliers, explaining that the service disruption was caused by management's decision to replace a proven system with an untested one, against the recommendation of your operations team. No spin, no euphemisms." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long, I thought he had hung up. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely audible. "You want me to publicly admit we screwed up?" "I want you to publicly admit you screwed up," I said firmly. "Yes, because our farmers, our drivers, and our customers deserve to know the truth. And because next time some private equity firm thinks about gutting an operations team to save money, maybe this story will make them think twice." He finally agreed to everything. All of it. And honestly, I think the public statement hurt him more than the $200,000. By Thursday morning, I drove back to the distribution center. It was chaos. Trucks were parked at random angles. Drivers were sitting on tailgates, drinking coffee, looking lost. Pallets of who knows what sat on the loading dock with no destination. It looked like the morning after a hurricane, except the hurricane was a machine learning algorithm that had never met a strawberry. Eddie met me at the door. He looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days, which he probably hadn't. "Tell me you can fix this," he said. "I can fix this," I replied, "but I need 24 hours. And nobody, and I mean nobody, touches any system until I say so." I went straight to work. First thing I did was kill Megan's platform entirely and restore my routing system from the backup drives I'd been maintaining on a separate server that nobody at the new management level knew about. Call it paranoid. Call it institutional knowledge. Call it 14 years of knowing that systems crash and people make mistakes, and the only thing standing between order and chaos is a backup that someone had the foresight to maintain. The routing database came back online at 6 a.m. I spent the next 4 hours rebuilding the driver assignments, checking reefer certifications, and calling every farm supplier personally to coordinate Friday's loads. Hector Ramirez nearly cried when I told him we'd have trucks at his cooler by 4 a.m. By midnight Thursday, I had a complete routing plan for Friday. 200 trucks, 847 delivery points, every temperature setting verified, every dock appointment confirmed. I called each of our 3 warehouse managers personally to walk through the preload protocols. Then I called the 10 most senior drivers and asked them to spread the word. "We're back online," I said. "Show up at your regular time. Everything runs like it used to." Friday morning, I stood in the dispatch office and watched 200 green dots appear on my screen as trucks pulled out of the warehouses one by one. By 6 a.m., every truck was loaded, routed, and rolling. By noon, the first delivery confirmation started coming in. On time, on temperature, on spec. Publix accepted all 47 deliveries without a single rejection. Kroger's regional VP called Colin to say he was cautiously optimistic, and Hector's strawberries were on their way to 200 grocery stores across the southeast instead of being bulldozed into a field. The final damage tally from Megan's 5-day experiment: $8.66 million in destroyed product, $2.1 million in contract penalties, $340,000 in emergency overtime for drivers and warehouse staff, an FDA inquiry that took 3 months to resolve, a Department of Agriculture investigation that resulted in a formal warning, and the Costco contract survived by exactly 1 percentage point after I ran perfect deliveries for the next 30 days straight. Megan was gone by the following Monday. I heard she went back to Chicago to pursue other opportunities, which is corporate speak for getting as far away from the scene of the crime as possible. Colin stayed on as GM, but the board stripped most of his operational authority. He spends his days in his glass office doing whatever private equity guys do when they've been neutered, probably making PowerPoint presentations about operational efficiency that nobody reads. Last week, my 2 new junior analysts finished their initial cross-training. For the first time in 14 years, the routing knowledge isn't just in my head. It's documented, backed up, and understood by people who actually work in logistics instead of theorizing about it. I should have done that years ago. That's on me. I was so focused on being indispensable that I forgot being indispensable is just another word for being a single point of failure. But I'll tell you this. Every morning when I pull into that parking lot at 4 a.m. and hear the diesel engines rumbling and the forklifts beeping and see those trucks lined up at the docks, I know that 200 drivers are about to carry $4.2 million worth of food to people who need it. Hector's strawberries will be in someone's kitchen by dinner time. The produce section at that little grocery store in Poke won't be empty, and Maria Santos will pick her berries knowing that someone on the other end is making damn sure they get where they need to go. Some things you can't optimize with an algorithm, some things you can't learn from a thesis, and some things are worth more than whatever number a private equity firm puts on a spreadsheet. I keep a photo on my desk now. It's from that Friday morning when the trucks rolled out for the first time after I came back. Eddie took it from the warehouse roof. 200 trucks fanned out across the yard, all lit up, all loaded, all heading out to do the job that matters. Every time some consultant walks in with a laptop and a pitch about disrupting our operations, I point to that photo. That's not a fleet, I tell them. That's a promise. And you don't break promises to people who feed the country.